Hello, top fan family. It is Bill and Jackson, which means it's Saturday, which means it's time to go. Well, we're a day off. Typically it's Friday, but it's time to go. Review the league this week, right? Our weekly review. Jackson, how the heck are you, sir?
I'm doing good. Sorry about the absence the last couple of weeks. We had some stuff going on. We were on the phone the entire time navigating the trade deadline. AJ Preller tried to give me all of his prospects, and you know, I was like, dude, you don't got any left.
I ain't got anything for you, man. I ain't got anything for you. Yes, the trade deadline has come and gone. It's been very unique. Some teams did absolutely nothing. Some teams did some teams did lots of things. So Jackson, I'm sure you're going to mention the trade deadline in one of your weeklies. I will I will leapfrog that and jump on that bandwagon once you do. But let's get started. Where are we going?
I want to talk about the best team in the MLB right now, the Milwaukee Brewers. I've been really impressed with the Brewers this year, just from a roster construction standpoint. They traded Devin Williams in the offseason to the Yankees, and everyone's like, oh, here we go again. But, the Brewers do what the Brewers do. And it's the same as they traded Josh Hader. Devin Williams has had a negative value for the Yankees, and they found somebody else to close their games out. And honestly, the Brewers, I really like their lineup and their rotation, but the lineup's what stands out to me. Almost every hitter in the lineup is an above average league hitter, which makes them a really nice all around team. They got some speed. All their outfielders have got speed. If you look at the stolen base totals, Jackson Chourio has 18 stolen bases. Sal Frelick has 17. Christian Yelich has 15. So they really got some guys that can run. The Brewers play nice fundamental baseball. They have a really solid pitching staff. And, they might be on pace to finish with the best record in the MLB for the first time since 1984, which for those of you who know, that's the last time the Brewers made the World Series, and I believe their only time when they played in the American League. So
So in the American League. Do you remember do you remember how they made the World Series? Oh, 1984, not 1982. My bad.
yeah,
I was going to say 1982 they made the World Series. The Angels is the best out of five series. Angels were up 2 games to nothing, had to come back to Anaheim and win one game and got swept.
it's playoffs. It wasn't the 84 Brewers. Was it the 82 Brewers? Not the 84. Am I
I think it was
misspeaking?
the 82 Brewers.
82 Brewers. You're right. Yeah, they lost the World Series to the
Yes.
Cardinals. There we go. I was off by even year.
I mean, listen, tomato, tomato, 2 years,
Yeah.
whatever, right?
To be fair, I wasn't yet alive yet, so I have no recollection of that happening.
I
So when
was.
you say,
I
do
remember.
you remember? I go, no, I don't.
I do. In fact, I have a scrapbook someplace. My mom made a scrapbook. She's a huge Angel person. She made an Angels and Dodgers scrapbook for me, and I remember there was a big thing in the sports page. Everybody, if you guys don't know what that is, it's an old school newspaper, and there was sports in there. And no, I'm kidding, but in the sports page, it showed a picture of one of the Angels sliding into second and saying, "1 win away from the World Series," and then they came back to Anaheim and got swept. That was not awesome. Brewers are looking good. My question is always going to be, are they built for October? So we'll see, right?
I would think so. They got a legit ace type pitcher in Freddie Peralta. Jose Quintana is like that experienced guy you like to pitch in the postseason, who's just going to go out there and give you 5, 6 quality innings. Bullpen looks great. And again, I think the lineup can manufacture a run because in the postseason, you're not going to be able to string those 5, 6 hits together to have a big inning.
And how about Devin Williams? Boy, isn't he just lighting it up in New York?
He's lighting up the scoreboard, all right. I'll tell you that.
In the wrong direction.
In the wrong direction, but yeah. But Milwaukee, really good. I'm really impressed.
Okay, Jackson, for my number one, I'm gonna throw a softball towards you here. You ready?
All right.
San Diego Padres literally go all in on the trade deadline. And what I mean by that is they traded away 16 different prospects. So San Diego is in a win now mode. Um, as the standings sit, as we sit right now, they are looking very good for a wild card spot. The question is are they built to win that 3 or 5 or 7 game series? We'll find out. But they literally, I'm going to say they mortgaged the farm. Jackson, tell me I'm wrong.
I'm going to tell you you're wrong because the biggest prospect they traded was DeVries, who's an 18-year-old shortstop. And while I'm all for developing prospects, and I think young, homegrown players are fun, I don't think it's a mistake to trade an 18-year-old prospect for proven MLB talent. I think the Padres plan to use Mason Miller as a closer this year and maybe stretch him out into a starter might be a genius move. It could not be. Worst case scenario, you got a lockdown closer for the next 3 seasons, or you can flip him at the end of the contract if you can't extend him. I think the Padres do a very good job at roster management in that way. And honestly, I agree with the all in sentiment, especially your best top prospects is shortstop. You have every single player you have plays shortstop for some reason because you're the Padres. It's literally a meme at this point. All of them can play shortstop except for the catchers and pitchers. I'm sure some of the pitchers can play shortstop, but AJ Preller loves his shortstop. So I don't think the Padres, they definitely got rid of some depth in the farm system, but I feel like, they have one of the best bullpens in baseball. Their starting rotation's pretty solid, and they added some extra arms to that. They just need the lineup to hit like the lineup can. They need Tatis Jr. to hit the way he can, Machado to hit the way they can. And this team is a scary postseason team. They can definitely win a postseason series or two or three if the bats show up.
So the where I have this issue with this, and this has nothing to do about me being a fan of America's team, the Dodgers, but where I have an issue with this is I see what they're doing, right? And it's somewhat of a risky move, but it could pay off, right? So they're going to make the playoffs this season. I Unless a lot of bad things happen in the next 45 days, they're going to make the playoffs, right? And I cannot foreseeably see enough bad happening where they don't make the playoffs. So they're going to make the playoffs. If they have a first round exit, a lot of people are going to be looking at these trades and thinking, okay, what were they for, right? Um, if they don't get themselves to the fall classic, I would say in the next two, this season, next season, or the season after, you're going to have a lot of frustrated and angry fans. Now, the business of baseball and the fandom of baseball never match up, but I see what they're doing too. If they consistently win and can consistently be in the playoffs, they can recruit better talent going forward. People want to play there. San Diego's a great ballpark. It's a nice area, all of the things. Um, but you got to go deep in the playoffs. The difference between the Padres maybe hitting it in the next 5, 6 years, making the playoffs, but not getting the World Series, and the Braves of the 90s, where the Braves are going deep in the playoffs. And they had been to a couple World Series. They won one of them. You've got to go deep in the playoffs. You can't become well. The Buffalo Bills is a bad example because they kept going to the Super Bowl, but you can't become the team that gets in and gets out. That's all.
Yeah, I agree with that, but I really like what the Padres did. I feel like they got some of the better players on the trade market. They really improved their team. I think Ramon Laureano's a really nice piece for that Padres lineup who's controllable. I like that they got controllable pieces too. So like you gave up prospects, but you have guys that aren't just the rentals.
Yeah.
You look at some of the stuff teams gave up for rentals and you're kind of like, but getting non-rental players is a nice key part of the Padres strategy that they do every year. So they can either flip them in the offseason again to, shuffle the roster around, or, you can just you don't have to keep filling holes every year
Yeah.
like some teams do,
Yeah.
trading for rentals every year.
Yeah. 100%. 100%. Okay. Number two, Jackson.
Uh, let's talk about the New York teams, the
Yeah.
Yankees and the Mets. I know the New York Post is having a field day. Uh, both of them were heralded as the winners of the trade deadline, and it kind of hasn't seemed that way. The Mets have lost 9 of their last 10, 5 in a row. The Yankees lost again. They're 4-6 in their last 10, and the back end of their bullpen that they've traded for looks really shaky. And both of them are, holding on to very, very slim wild card leads.
Mm-hmm.
So that begs the question: At the trade deadline, what's better? Improving your roster with the biggest names possible or finding the pieces that fit correctly? I guess I'll pose that question to you.
Well, to me, this is an easy question, right? It's one is about getting fans in the stands and making money. The other one's about being a good baseball team. And every day and twice on Sunday, I'm going to go with a good baseball team, right?
Yeah. And I'm going to be honest with you. I think the Mets going out and getting Ryan Helsley, yeah, sure, it improves their bullpen situation at the back end for sure. But I think the Mets' biggest weakness has been their hitting this year. And I think that's going to continue to be their Achilles heel because you look at the Mets lineup, you know, I know I'm a salty Braves fan and they're not being good this year, but I'm just looking at the stats here. But they have several everyday starters who have been not that great. You know, Luis Torrens has a 585 OPS. Luis Angel Acuna is a sub 600 OPS. Mark Vientos hasn't been that good. Tyrone Taylor plays a whole bunch. He's got a sub 600 OPS. There's still Trout and Starling Marte out there who's been like solid, but
Mhm.
this Mets lineup doesn't look like a lineup that can go deep in the postseason because it doesn't have a ton of depth to it. You know, and it really feels like they needed that extra bat at the trade deadline and they just didn't get it. I mean, they got Cedric Mullins, which is a nice piece, but like they really kind of needed more.
Yeah, they did, and that's. I mean, I've been getting messages from Mets and Yankees fans all week. Yankees fans more than Mets fans are nervous. Mets fans, yes, the Mets are hitting that dog days of summer, but the Yankees could miss the playoffs. It's gonna be really
Yeah,
hard for the Mets to miss the playoffs.
and the Yankees went real in on that bullpen. And don't get me wrong, Camilo Doval and David Bednar have good track records, but I think they have one of the worst reliever traits, which is volatility. Relievers that walk lots of batters, and I think modern baseball at the analytics, everyone's so caught up on the stuff. Camilo Doval throws 101 miles an hour, throws this nasty sinker and slider, but on the nights you can't locate it becomes a problem because you give out free base runners. And today's MLB is all about punishing the walks.
Mhm.
This season is one of the seasons I can't remember watching a season in recent memory where teams had punished the walks more brutally than this year. Every game I watch, a 2-out walk or a leadoff walk is just a run almost every single time. And that's not good for teams that are in tight games and postseason races because it really kind of dials up the pressure. And you have to play perfect.
I'm I'm gonna add on to that because you just leapfrogged me into my number two. So I'm gonna add on what you
Perfect.
just said. You just said the walks, right? I'm gonna make a statement that I make every year. At this point in the season, the least amount of mental mistakes, what's gonna win you games, and it's gonna get you into the playoffs. And I'll give you a perfect example. Jackson, he's mentioned the walks. Last night I'm watching the Dodger game. Dodgers are down 1-0. Max Scherzer is pitching very, very well. By the way, yesterday it was Max Scherzer against Clayton Kershaw, 3,000 strikeout club members, right? Number
Yeah. What year is
19
it?
and number
2009?
20. What's that?
What year is it? 2009, 2010?
Exactly, exactly. And so the last time they faced each other was in 2008. Clayton had 3 wins in his career. Max Scherzer had none. Max was playing for the Diamondbacks. Obviously, Clayton was playing for the Dodgers. The night before, the game before that, in 2008, was pitched by Randy Johnson for the Diamondbacks and Greg Maddux for the Dodgers. So you have 2 Hall of Famers. Who would have known in 2008? Anyways, watching the game last night, Andy Paez draws a walk. Um, and then uh, I think it was a 1-2 or 2-2 count, and he decides to try to steal second base. Alex Freeman, who's a rookie who comes up, uh, hits a fly ball, pops out, but it's between Kirk and Vladimir. Well, Andy's still standing on second base. He's not paying attention to what's going on. He didn't realize the ball was put in the air. Now, why somebody's not yelling for him to get back, why he didn't hear the bat hit the ball and him turn around and look, I have no idea. But let's just say he got doubled up. At that point, it felt like maybe this was not going to be the Dodgers' night, right? It just felt bad. Um, you fast forward. another walk happens. Um, or I'm sorry, Shohei gets a double, then Marcus Lynn comes up and hits a two-run Jimmy Jack. Um, but again, mental mistakes. Andy Paez is playing very well. He's hitting close to 280, and this is his first full season as a rookie. You just you can't make mental mistakes, Jackson, if you're going to want to win, and especially if you're playing good clubs like Toronto. You just can't make those mistakes.
Yeah, you know, you hit the nail on the head. And I could think of another play that was similar this week. With I don't know if you saw the Jazz Chisholm play where
Mm-hmm.
he went halfway between first and second on a pop up to the second baseman and got doubled off. Unacceptable, honestly. And I saw the rounds on social media with if Aaron Boone ever watches this, Aaron Boone, I'm sure you're a great guy, but I don't like you as a manager, man. But reaming the first base coach for not yelling at Jazz Chisholm to get back to the bag. Every little leaguer knows the ball's popped up, you immediately return to the bag.
Unless he didn't know where it was at, but he knew where it was at.
He, Come on, how many times has he been on first base in his life?
Of course,
Tens of thousands, probably at this
of
point.
course, of
But
course.
you're right, mental mistakes, losing
Mental
ball game.
mistakes at this point, the physicality of the mistakes are just going to be just that. They're just mistakes. Um, Early on in the season, the physicality is a different story. Guys are, shaking up cobwebs and everything like that. This portion of the season, yeah, it's real stuff. So, okay, Jackson, take me into number three.
All right, let's talk about the NL MVP race because I think it's very interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Um, obviously, Shohei Ohtani's in the mix, but I think there's, Pete Crow Armstrong has been there all year playing elite defense, and he's having a really solid offensive campaign. But I think there's a guy that's kind of come out of nowhere that like people wouldn't think of, especially since he's a DH. Kyle Schwarber just hit his 41st home run. Uh, Schwarber has been carrying the Phillies all year. Bryce Harper's been in and out of the lineup. Harper's just now getting back and heating up. But I think Kyle Schwarber has been one of the most consistent hitters in the league this year. He's got 41 home runs, close to 100 RBIs, a 970 OPS. And he's going up here in a contract year. He might hit 60 home runs. And I think with Ohtani pitching limited, I know Ohtani's a pitcher and a hitter, but Ohtani's pitching has been really limited. Without the big sample size, I don't think that gives him that much of an edge. I think it could be a really close MVP race between these three guys. Whereas, I keep seeing in the media where it's Shohei's award to lose. I don't know. It looks like you could really pick either one of these three with how well all three of these ball clubs are playing right now and really have a good MVP, first place winner.
So to your point, so PCA is only batting two. Oh, he's batting 261. Schwarber's batting 251. Shohei's batting 280. But PCA has 29 stolen bases, which Shohei has 16 and Schwarbaum has 10.
10,
So
which is surprising. Hey,
right,
10. 10 is 10.
so you have to make an argument for PCA if he gets to the 30-30 club as a 23-year-old. What are we like? What are we
And
talking about?
I think his biggest advantage is he plays every day in the field.
Mm-hmm.
Honestly, Schwarber and Ohtani DH. So I think Pete Crow Armstrong stays in the MVP race. I know his on base percentage isn't fantastic. It's right there at 300. But come on, he's slugging over 500. That's really hard to do. Like you said, 30-30 with, gold glove defense in center field. That's an MVP candidate. I'm sorry.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, I listen. Do I still think Shohei's going to win it? As long as he crosses 40 home runs, I think he's going to win it. Um, the magic number to me, because you're nobody wants to admit that you've got a three pony race, right? In this, everybody's just thinking Shohei. The magic number would be as if Schwarber or Shohei cross 50 for home runs. If they cross 50, then that's game set match.
Yeah, I think if Schwarber hits almost 60 home runs, he can probably win MVP.
Yes,
Absolutely.
that's true. 100%. 100%. Well, I know some boys in Philadelphia, and I know how they're probably feeling about that. So it's gonna.
Yeah, I living in the near Philadelphia. It's funny to see all the stuff going around about how they need to re-sign Schwarber sooner rather than later. I'm like, every day the price tag keeps going up because he hits some ball 115 miles an hour through a scoreboard somewhere.
Yeah.
So
Okay, Jackson, my number three is probably a little bit off the beaten path. Um, but I'm going to talk about a couple of teams, and not from a negative standpoint, although it's going to sound like it's negative, but I'm going to talk about a couple of teams that are quote unquote rebuilding, right? The Rockies, congratulations, by the way, on being the first to 85 Rockies. You know, you're awesome. Wrong category. My bad. The Rockies and the Angels. Um, the A's are doing a really good job at rebuilding, and so are the Angels. Unfortunately, the Angels are going to have probably a 10th season in a row, which I think shocked Jackson that it's been 10 seasons in a row that they have had a losing record.
I was
Um,
gonna say that really shocks me because I still think it's like 2018.
yeah, yeah. But the question becomes, Jackson, is what do these teams need to do to compete? I mean, the Rockies playing in a very difficult division. The Giants have gotten better. The obviously the Padres, we've spoken about the Padres, they've gotten better. The Dodgers are getting better. What do these teams like the Rockies and the A's and the Angels just need to do to pick it up?
I think with the teams you see that are perennially underperforming is it comes from ownership. The lack of willingness to spend money on baseball operations outside of the major league roster is really what burns you in this sport. Player development is so big in baseball, whether it's developing the guys you draft or the guys you scout, or acquiring the guys that you scout but other teams get, and then developing them / using them in the way you wanted them to after they've been somewhat developed. And I just think hearing all the stuff coming out about the Angels, where the stuff they do for their minor leaguers, where it's like the most bare bones operation possible. It doesn't surprise me that their best prospects immediately get fast tracked to the MLB. Probably because the front office staff knows if they try to develop them in the minors, they're going to ruin them.
Yeah,
Everyone clowns on the Angels for that, but if you, as an upper executive, thinking that a guy has potential, and well, I got to try to develop him at Double A, where he lives in like, this random brick barracks looking building with all the other dudes on the team, crappy accommodations on the road, and he's not going to be, good mentally, so he's probably not going to develop well. You might as well give him some experience at the big league level where you have the better coaching, because that's where the money's going, the better player development, and you can actually get him comfortable and give him the confidence he needs to develop.
yeah, yeah, 100%, 100%. I just, there are the Angels, in my opinion, are marquee team, right? And so are the A's. The A's had a very good run in the 70s. They had a very good run in the 80s and early 90s. Early 2000s with the Moneyball, I mean, the A's have had some very, very good seasons. They're not a team that,
And honestly, they're one of the best looking aesthetic teams in the MLB too. So, like the best uniforms. It's a nice vibe. The
yeah,
A's franchise.
yeah. Well, and honestly, and the Angels too. I mean, the Angels had some great years in the 70s. They had great years in the 80s. They had really good years in the 90s. They won a World Series in 2002. I mean,
They were
and
really good in 2000s.
yeah, yeah, early 2000s, they were really good. But it just disappoints me. And I don't blame it on, and all three of these ball clubs, I don't blame it on the GMs at all. I think the GMs are doing what their bosses are telling them, the owners are telling them to do. And the GMs have the ability to make a lot of good moves, but they're not able to. So, yeah, to me, it's just the right.
Yeah, I know. Let's get some owners in there who actually want to
Do
do
something.
something other than collect their paycheck.
All right, Jackson, let's do one more round and then we'll do some honorable mentions. Go ahead. What do you got for your last round?
We were talking about it. The Detroit Tigers are scuffling. They're feeling the July August blues. They have not come out of the second half hot. Um, their lead has shrunk down to, I believe it's 5 games now on Cleveland, 6 games
Mhm.
from a double digit lead. They're not playing good baseball. And this was a team, early on they ran out to a big, they were like 5 or 6 games ahead in the best record. They're now behind Toronto for the best record in the American League. They didn't have that great of a trade deadline either. Ownership seemed, and management seemed really kind of apprehensive to add big pieces. Um, I feel like a lot of the other teams in this American League wildcard race in division race got a lot better. So I'm just worried for the Tigers. Are the Tigers a one and done team in the playoffs? I guess is my question.
They're definitely hitting the dog days of summer. They're definitely hitting the dog days of summer. Um, a week and a half or so ago, they were up on Cleveland by 10 games. They're now up by 6. I'd have to look at the schedule and see if Cleveland and Detroit meet each other all the rest of the season. But it is a little nerve-wracking. I'm not going to lie to you. If you're a Detroit Tigers fan, it is a little nerve-wracking. But they are a very good team. Um, Not a lot of the guys are playoff experienced. So it'll be interesting to see when they get into the playoffs how that plays itself out. And unless the Tigers start playing 2-8 in 10 game spans, it's gonna be really hard for them to miss the playoffs. But let's see how they do when they get into October. How does a
So
Riley Green do? How does Spencer Torkelson do? How
yeah,
does the young guys like Colt Keith do? How do those guys match up, right?
yeah,
And how do they match up? Assuming, let's say again they draw, for lack of better things, they draw Houston in the first round. How do they match up against a Correa and an Altuve and a Jeremy Pena, who have all been there, right?
yeah,
Jordan
an
Alvarez.
experienced postseason team. Yeah,
Mm. That for them is just another game. It's just another baseball game versus where a guy like Colt Keith, although they have a little bit of playoff experience from last season, um,
it's
a
a lot
guy
of
like
pressure.
yeah, it's a whole different ball game, right? It's a whole different game. So I like the fact that you brought up Detroit.
Yeah, they play Cleveland 6 times in September,
Oh,
and yeah,
and
it's
their
going to
lead
be
is 6 games.
6 times in the last 12 games of the season. Their last 4 series are Cleveland, Atlanta at home, and then they go to Cleveland, and then they finish at Boston. So
And okay, all right. So that will lead me into my last point, which was Boston.
yeah,
Boston's
there you
only
go.
3 games out um, of Toronto, and so Boston might be playing for either a divisional title and potentially a first round bye. So those games may mean something at the end of the season, or they may not. I mean, who knows? But Boston has turned it up. I think Alex Cora realized that, hey, if we stay around 500, we just keep struggling and struggling. You know what? It ain't gonna be awesome. It ain't gonna be awesome. So, um, yeah, we're gonna, yes, we're gonna definitely. It's definitely gonna be some stuff, right? So,
Yeah,
so I like Boston.
my
No, I think that Boston. Having Dustin May, I know that he didn't have a great outing, but when you have uh, Braden Bello, you've got Walker Buehler, you've got Garrett Crochet, now you have Dustin May. You have a team that can pitch deep into the playoffs. You have 2 World Series champions on there, right? With Dustin May and Walker Buehler. Uh, Walker Buehler's won 2 World Series, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, whereas Dustin May's won one.
yeah, I guess my biggest worry for Boston is their bullpen. Outside of a Aroldis Chapman, how do you set up behind your starting pitchers?
Huh. Well, but again, and this is what I tell everybody, you're talking about when you're looking at the playoffs, right? every and I'll just assume, let's just say it's Monday and you're starting pitcher. You're starting pitcher on Monday. On Tuesday, you're not throwing anything. On Wednesday, you throw a very light bullpen. On Thursday, you throw a very or Wednesday, you throw a very light or a bullpen. On Thursday, you probably just play catch, and on Friday, you pitch again. Well, what's to say that on Wednesday, if that's game 2 or game 3, what's to say you can't come out of the pen for your bullpen, right? your bullpen
That's fair.
session, you know,
That's
I mean,
fair.
you're gonna throw bullpen sessions anyways. You're gonna throw 40 or so pitches. Why can't you just do that in a game setting?
It's true, but that's a double-edged sword. Either it goes really well or it goes really bad.
Well, that's the same thing with starting. It either goes
Yeah.
really well or goes really bad.
Yeah, but I think the change of the routine and the pressure that your bullpen sessions under pressure, I think is an underrated aspect. People
Yeah,
you see the Madison Bumgarners of the postseason who just come out of the bullpen and just are lights out, and then you see Robbie Ray give up a walk-off home run to Yordan Alvarez. It's not as easy as it looks.
mm,
And well, I do think that they have enough arms. I'm just worried about how it's constructed and how they're going to get to a guy like a Aroldis Chapman, who is a lockdown closer still somehow throwing 102 miles an hour at the age of what is he, 37, 38?
yeah, yeah, yeah. He's got an arm like Jamie Moyer, right? Who's gonna pitch until he's 90.
It's like Jamie Moyer and Nolan Ryan were
Rich Hill.
combined. Yeah, yeah, there you go. Rich Hill and Nolan Ryan were combined into one person.
Yep.
Although Nolan Ryan pitched till he was like 52, so maybe he's just the left-handed Nolan Ryan.
Could be. Okay, Jackson, what do you got for honorable mentions? I got a couple of them, but what do you got for honorable mentions?
I got two of them. We're on milestone watch this week. Mike Trout is 2 home runs away from 400. Um, Look, I know some people will say he's not a Hall of Famer because he doesn't have 2,000 hits. I don't care if he hits 400 home runs. He is still a first ballot Hall of Famer. He's at 87 WAR. That's a lot of WAR, especially for all the games he has missed. And then my other honorable mention is another guy who crossed 80 WAR in his last start. Clayton Kershaw is the 26th player ever to accumulate 80 WAR as a player. Kershaw is a first ballot Hall of Famer. I mean, duh. This didn't change much, but it's just a nice little round number for him to pass. He's just in a more elite club, and he's probably in that discussion for top 10. You could probably debate top five pitchers of all time,
Yeah,
which isn't a knock on him. There's just been a lot of really good pitchers
yeah.
in baseball
No,
history.
I mean definitely one of the top five left-handed pitchers of all time.
Oh yeah, left-handed, absolutely. But
Yeah,
but like overall, he's probably sneaking into the top 10.
100%. I like those two honorable mentions. Mine are I love watching the Little League World Series, but everybody remember these are 11 and 12-year-old kids. So when you're watching it, don't look at it and say, "Well, I can't believe that," because I got that a little bit from somebody this week, and I thought you should
Was
realize
it
that what's that?
that walk-off pass ball
Uh-uh. It was just a
where
couple of like missed situational scenarios, and
yeah.
I'm like, guys, just don't. I mean, these are 11 and 12-year-old kids. They're on national TV. They are like freaked out as it is, anyways. So just let them be, right?
Yeah. Like honestly, I saw the play where it was a wild pitch. Like the pitcher spiked one, got behind the catcher, who got to the ball quickly, threw the ball to the plate. Nobody was covering, and the runner had frozen between third and home plate. Pitcher wasn't covering. The shortstop was behind the pitcher. The third baseman was behind the pitcher. It went by all three players, and the run scored. It happens. They're kids. It happens.
Yes.
They've been playing baseball for what, 8 years?
Yeah.
These
I'm sure it's
professionals we can
older
rip
than that.
apart because they've been playing baseball for 20 years, the professionals, but like they've been playing baseball for 8 years and some of them not all year round. So
I
it
have my
happens.
warm-up jersey from my high school years in my closet, which is I graduated in the 90s. So I have jerseys and shirts in my closet that are older than these kids. So
Yeah.
that's my number one. My number two is on Tuesday, I did something that I have never done before. I went to a WNBA game. The LA Sparks were hosting the Indiana Fever and Caitlin Clark and Sophie Cunningham. Caitlin was on the bench. Sophie is just as good as she looks online as far as talent is concerned. Jackson, I was so impressed with this. They were running good basketball all the way through. Final score was 191. A lot of
Nice.
fast breaks, a lot of movement. I can see why these girls fight so much though, because the referees just don't call anything, and it's frustrating to watch. I was sitting by a guy who probably played college hoops The way that he was talking, I would assume he played college hoops. He may have touched the NBA. I don't know. I didn't recognize him, but he uh, he definitely had his opinions on some stuff. But it was great. So if you've never been to a WNBA game, go take a look. It's good stuff.
All right.
So, Jackson, how about we do this again next week?
It sounds good. We'll be 1 week closer to the playoff race is starting to heat up mid-August.
There you
This
go.
is
Jackson is Jackson. Just so that everybody knows, Jackson told me this offline. I probably shouldn't tell his team, but I'm going to anyways. Jackson put 100 grand on the Braves to make the playoffs this season. He just put it down last week. I don't know what he's thinking, but hey, he was thinking something. All right.
no, you're wrong. I put 100 grand on them to get the number 1 overall pick. Come on.
Oh, my bad. Okay, I knew there was
I
something.
got faith in my team to do what's right. No.
All right, everybody, enjoy your Saturday. We will talk to everybody soon. Have a good one. Thanks, Jackson.
Yeah.